Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swinson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. On the program this morning, a little later on in the program, we're going to talk about two serious issues, then jump into the toy department a little bit. We'll talk to Lime Springs native, Crestwood High School graduate, and Iowa women's basketball player Sharon Goodman. I had a chance to talk with her last week at Iowa Women's Basketball Media Day. Of course, the Iowa women going to be taking on DePaul in the crossover at Kinnick. Hopefully the weather can hold so 50,000 people can watch women play basketball outdoors at Kinnick on Saturday, or rather on Sunday. It'll be a 2:00 start. We'll check in with Sharon Goodman. We'll also chat with Kris Einck. He is the superintendent of the Howard-Winneshiek School District. A voter-approved PEPL vote is coming up on November 7th. He'll explain the reasoning why that is needed and how it will affect the taxpayers in the Howard-Winneshiek School District. Our first guest this morning will talk about another facility referendum coming up, and that will be in Spring Grove on November the 7th. Some improvements that are desired in that school district, and voters will have to approve them. And Rachel Udstuen is the superintendent of the school district in Spring Grove. She is our first guest this morning. It's the Our Town program. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Coming up on November 7th, the residents of the Spring Grove School District will head to the polls for a facility referendum, and Rachel Udstuen, the superintendent of schools from Spring Grove, will join us now to break down what people will be voting on. And before we get into the specifics of the referendum, Rachel, tell us how we got to this point. How long of a process was it? How did you guys decide that this was going to be what voters were going to vote on?
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting. We haven't had a big building renovation for 30 years. And our district has done one about every 20 years or every 30 years. We did one in the 20s, in the 50s, and the 80s. And now here we are asking, is it time again for us to look at something? And we collected data 3 different ways before we came up with our referendum question. We had experts come into our building and look in every nook and cranny, look at our HVAC systems, the roofs, the windows, everything. And they did a facility assessment. Then we did an educational adequacy assessment, which meant we asked all the people who use this space, what's working, what's not working, what needs to be changed. Took all of that data, put it together, and then put out a survey to our community, asking our community, which we talked back last March about that we asked our community, what do you value? What do you want to see done? And how much are you willing to what can you afford to pay basically for our building? And so we found out we had over a third of our taxpayers respond to that survey, which is a really strong response. Found out that we really care about the infrastructure of our building, roof, HVAC, windows, and improving some of our congested areas like in the kitchen, cafeteria. And also really value the career tech ed space. We call it the CTE space, which for a lot of us is what we know as the shop or the wood shop. It's where a lot of our trades work is done. And we know that is such a huge push right now. We need to be training students for these positions, and we need to look at updating our facility. So didn't mean that our community didn't support the other areas. It's just that there's only so much money, and this is where they wanted the money to go.
And the referendum has been divided into 2 questions. Why was it divided into 2 as compared to putting everything into 1 question?
Great question. And I've been asked that in the community, so I'm glad it came up. So we decided, we learned that the response in the survey said that $24 million is too high, but 16 was kind of that point where it was like, yeah, we can support this. So we decided to be very intentional about that because we can't afford to have a referendum question fail. We need to take care of our building. So we put about 12 million on the infrastructure. We have some of our pipes are 95 years old. They've been well cared for. We've had a history of maintenance teams that have taken unbelievable care of this building. And so the fact that we have 95-year-old pipes working is pretty impressive, but we've reached the point where it's time to replace some of them. And so we wanted to make sure that we locked in that first question, taking care of our building, because it's so important. Some of our windows they're just not energy efficient. They don't close all the way, so they're letting lots of warm air out during the winter. We have some roof sections that need to be repaired. So we wanted to lock that in with that first question. Then, because our community said we want to look at the CTE, the career tech ed space, we put that on as our second question. So that the first question is really about taking care of the building that we currently have. That second question is about a $4 million addition, a career tech ed addition that would be on our back. We don't know exactly where we're envisioning. It might be in part of our black-topped playground area, not all of it. But that is a second question. So people say, well, do I have to choose between the two? No, the first question must pass in order for the second question to pass. So if the first question passes and the second question has enough votes to pass, then we do both projects. If only the first question passes, and the second question doesn't, we still do the first part of the project, the $12 million taking care of our building. If the first question didn't pass and the second question did pass for the career tech ed space, it still wouldn't happen because our first question must pass.
Does it need a 50% plus one to pass on both these questions? Does it need a 60% to pass? How does that work when it comes to actually getting this thing across the finish line?
50% plus one. We're hoping it's higher than that. We're hoping we've done our homework, listened to the voices in our community, and that we're putting a project in front of them that they support. But 50 plus one is what we need.
And how can residents find out how much this will actually cost them on a annual, a monthly, et cetera basis?
Sure. We've been sending out a number of flyers in the mail, putting a lot of things on social media, directing people to our website. And when you get on our website, the very first thing you see is a click here to learn more about the referendum. And when you go there, there's a referendum calculator. And so you can go right in, plug in if you're looking at your residential impact, you plug in your home value and you find out exactly to the dollar what you'll be paying. Same thing for commercial. The one that's different is if you own ag land. And in that case, this is an interesting thing because in the past, in the 80s, we would have heard that the ag landowners, they build the schools because the tax impact lands very heavily on their shoulders. And that's not the case anymore. Now, the state of Minnesota has come up with an ag to school credit. It's a 70% tax credit on all ag property. You don't have to apply for it. It's just automatically applied to your amount, your tax impact. And so when you go to that calculator, you put in your parcel land, your parcel ID, and then because every parcel is specific to that individual, that information then goes to our financial advisors, Ellers, and they look it up and then they either call you or email you, whatever you say is your preference, and they'll tell you exactly what your tax impact is. And you have to put in, like if you have a number of parcel IDs, then you can put all of those in and they'll figure out exactly what that is. But it will be with a 70% ag to school tax credit. So it will be significantly lower than what you're expecting if you're expecting this to be like the 80s.
And from what I understand, there's a couple of opportunities for folks to show up and ask questions of their own here in the coming weeks. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have a couple of more community meetings. We have one tomorrow, October 10th from 5 to 6 p.m. We also have one on next week, Tuesday, October 17th from 5 to 6. The first one is here at school. The second one on the 17th is up at the cinema, at the Spring Grove Cinema. But I also say you can call or stop by anytime and we'll give you a tour of the spaces if you want to see what the building looks like, to see what we're talking about, and also just to ask questions about how will this impact me? And we can help someone with a calculator if they want help figuring out exactly what their tax impact is.
As for voting itself, let's say folks aren't going to be around on Tuesday, November 7th. How can they vote early? And if folks are going to be around on that date, where do they vote and what are the hours the polls will be open?
Yes. So election day is November 7th. And we will be up at the Fest building that day. And the polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. But if you can't go on election day, you can come in for early voting in the school office anytime during regular hours, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're here. We've all been trained by the county in early voting, and it's just a simple process that you can do. And you can either come and fill out an application and take your ballot with you, or you can actually vote right here in the office.
Are we missing anything else you need to pass on to the public, as long as you got the form this morning?
I think we hit the big ones. I wanted to be sure. I do have one. Okay. Something that people often ask about. We talk about that. One of our questions is addressing the heating and ventilation systems, the HVAC systems. And a frequently asked question I've been getting in this warm fall, and when people are sitting in that gymnasium during really warm volleyball games, is, does that mean air conditioning? And the answer is yes, it does mean air conditioning. We are now in a time where it's warm, not just for 3 months in the summer, but well into the fall and also in the spring. And so that is one question we want to clear up for people, that yes, it does include air conditioning.
Rachel, we appreciate you taking some time to tell us about the facility referendum you got coming up on November 7th. And again, it's important to get your voice heard. Folks can do so at the Spring Grove School office, or do so on Election Day. As always, pleasure catching up with you, Rachel, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Darren. I appreciate it.
Rachel Udstuen, the superintendent of schools in the Spring Grove School District. A facility referendum coming up on November 7th. The residents of the Howard-Winneshiek School District will be going to the polls on November 7th, and to break down what they will be voting on is the superintendent of the Howard-Winneshiek School District, Kris Einck. And Kris, I'll ask you the general question to start out. What will district patrons be voting on November 7th?
Yeah, so they'll be going for our voted physical plant and equipment levy, or voted PEBBLE, which currently provides our district up to 67 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. Now, right now, the Howard-Winneshiek School District, we have it set at 57 cents. But what we want to do is actually move that up to a $1.34, or basically, Darren, have the authority to move it to reallocate funds within our overall tax formula and move that up to a $1.34. And the voters can authorize, like I said, the voted physical plant and equipment levy for a period not exceeding 10 years and in an amount not exceeding $1.34 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. So the Howard-Winneshiek School District actually last approved this or renewed it, I should say, in 2021 for 67 cents. And this is good until 2031. So what we're actually doing on November 7th is amending it. So regardless, we'll have the authority through 2031 to go to 67 cents. But like I said, what we want to do is amend it so then we could go up to $1.34.
And explain the difference, because when it comes to school funding, there's a lot of complicated factors that lay people like myself don't exactly understand.
Yeah.
But the difference between actual spending and spending authority, describe that to the lay people like myself.
Well, I think what's probably a better, even an easier way to explain it is we have different silos, okay? And within each silo or fund, we can spend those dollars on very specific things. So, for instance, at Howard-Winneshiek, our overall tax rate is $1,220 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. Now, I also want to note that the state average school district property tax rate for FY24 is $13.85, and Howard Wins is $12.20, and that is set. So we're quite a bit under the state average, all right? So the main silo or fund of money would be your general fund, okay? About 80% of your general fund is going to go towards staff salaries, benefits, curriculum programs, textbooks, supply materials, those type of things, okay? The rest, and then, well, and I take that back. About 80% is going to go towards staff salaries. The rest of the remaining 20% would go towards, like, you know, textbooks, supplies, materials, those type of things. That's $8.83. So out of that $12.20, $8.83 goes to the general fund. All right. Now that funding source is state aid, property tax, and a little bit of federal dollars. Okay. The next silo is your PEBBLE, physical plant and equipment levy. All right. And that's for your building and grounds improvements and repairs, buses, technology, non-instructional software leases, those type of things. That's mostly property tax, is what that funding source is. Right now, that's 57 cents. And we want the authority to move that up to $1.34. Now, the next fund would be our management fund. All right. Those expenses are property and casualty insurance, workers' compensation, early retirement incentives, those type of things. That's strictly the funding source is property tax. And here's what we're going to do. What we're asking to the public for when they go out and vote is to have the authority to take money that's already being generated out of the management fund, and that's $2.80. We want to take 77 cents out of that 280, and we want to be able to transfer it into the PEBBLE, into the voted PEBBLE, which would then increase it to $1.34. So our general fund would stay the same, $8.83. We would increase that voted PEBBLE to $1.34. Our management fund would go down to $2.03. It's right now $2.80, but we take 77 cents, transfer that into the PEBBLE. Okay. And if you add those three numbers up, that's your $12.20 tax rate. So it's really important for people to understand what we're asking for is the authority to shift money. And you want to talk about local control, there's local control right there. So we're going to shift some dollars from the management fund to the PEBBLE. Now, people ask right away, well, can your management fund handle that? Yes, Darren, it can. Our management fund is very healthy. And here's the good news. Just because we have the authority to shift money from the management fund to the PEBBLE doesn't mean if in 3 or 4 years we want to shift a little bit of money or dollars back into the management fund, we have the authority to do that. Okay. Now I want to continue on with our different review of funds or different silos. There's the debt service silo. That we don't have any debt service. We don't have any bond referendums we're paying off. Howard-Winn last had a bond referendum. I think we paid it off in like 2012 or 2013. There's the public education and recreation levy. We don't utilize that, so it's zero, okay? There's the state penny for infrastructure or your SAVE dollars. That is a sales tax, but it's really important for people to understand that's a separate tax on purchases and does not impact our school's tax rate. So there's no tax there. You have your student activities fund, but again, no tax. So the funding source is like your gate, admission, fundraising, entry fees. And then you have your food and nutrition silo or fund, okay? And that's basically, that supports your food and nutrition program, nutrition staff salaries, benefits, food and equipment. And that's all funded basically through, majority of it through your federal funds and a little bit through parent fees for like lunch tickets, okay? But if you add all that up, that's $12.20. That's our overall tax rate. That's not going to change. We're just asking for the authority to shift money from our management fund to our PEBBLE, and those dollars are already being generated.
Why is it necessary to shift more funds into PEBBLE as compared to keeping them into the management fund?
Because in the management fund, we can't use it for what we need as far as upgrading our facilities. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because what we've done is we've highlighted or identified some needs. Now, it's not only limited to these, but these are some pretty specific and important needs. So we're looking at, number one, a new high school entry and offices to update safety and security. Also, new elementary and middle school entry and offices to update safety and security. Right now, if you enter our main entrance into our high school or our main entrance in the elementary middle school, it goes right into our cafeteria. So God forbid, something would happen and somebody would come in, an intruder, there would be all these kids there wide open. And what we want to do is we want to set that up differently. So you have to go through a set of double doors, then you have to go through the office, then you have to go through another set of double doors. So that safety and security piece is really, really important. And that is a top priority for us.
And what are some of the other identified needs that some of these and new PEBBLE dollars, if this measure is approved, will go towards?
We want to expand our classrooms specifically for our special education, ELL, and general classroom needs. We would like to either remodel or build a new auditorium. We've done a really nice job the last few years sticking money into our athletic facilities, and we have some really nice athletic facilities. However, it's time to start focusing on our fine arts. So the auditorium, we want to update our high school vocal and instrumental classrooms. We want to remodel or actually even build a new high school art room. Our science classrooms are outdated. They're just antiquated. I mean, our high school was built in 1969 and it's been well kept over the years, but we just need to update some things. So those are some of the other areas. Our high school parking lot is another example of we're going to have to stick some money into that to redo that. It's just not, it's old. It's just not in the best shape. The exterior of our elementary middle school building, believe it or not, that was built, that's coming up on 30 years that building was built. So there's just some need there as well.
And as for the effect of this measure on people's property taxes, the way you explained it earlier, it shouldn't
will not affect
anything at all, correct?
Correct. It will not affect. Now, I've had people say, well, how come our property taxes are going up? Well, that's dealing with valuations that we have no control over. But as far as our property tax rate, the school's tax rate, 1220, that's set. That's not changing, and it won't change. It doesn't need to change. And I've told people that this is a great way to utilize our dollars and not have to go out for a bond referendum in the future. And this is money that's already being generated.
And as for absentee voting, etc., when does that begin?
Yeah, if they go on our website, Darren, I have that information on there. I know the polling locations. I'm still working with the courthouse in Howard County to get that information on the website as well. But if they go to our website, they can find that.
And is this a measure that just needs the simple majority?
Yep. 50+1. Exactly.
Anything else we need to cover regarding this important vote coming up on November 7th?
No, other than if people have any specific questions, please feel free to call the school district or send me an email, reach out. We're doing a community forums. We went to Elma a couple weeks ago. Tonight, we're going to go to Chester at 6:00, the community center. Next week, we'll be in Ridgeway at 6:00. The following week, we'll be up in Lime Springs. And then on November 1st, we'll actually be in Crestwood at the high school auditorium. And it's just going to be a simple, I'm going to kind of review what I've discussed with you and open it up to the folks that attend for questions. And we just want to be as transparent and get the facts out there as much as we possibly can. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you have the dates for those Ridgeway and Lime Springs ones, the specific dates?
Let me grab my calendar here because I want to make sure that I'm accurate with this.
Okay.
They are, so today is the 11th, and like I said, we are at Chester tonight at 6:00. Next Wednesday is the 18th, October 18th. We're at Ridgeway Community Center at 6:00. And then on Wednesday, October 25th, we'll be at the Lime Springs Community Center at 6:00. And then on Wednesday, November 1st, we'll be at the Crestwood High School Auditorium at 6:00.
All right, Kris, we appreciate you taking some time to inform us about what your district residents will be voting on November 7th. As always, we appreciate the time.
Thank you, Darren.
Kris Einck is the superintendent of schools at the Howard-Winneshiek School District. Peppel vote coming up on November 7th. Sharon, I know all eyes are forward right now, but looking back at last year, what was it like being a part of that ride?
It was amazing. I mean, it's crazy to look back on it. I mean, we're a full year going into a new season right now, but it was just amazing to be able to experience that. Just the way they treated us down at the Final Four, the whole run, seeing all the fans that came to Seattle and Dallas, it was just incredible and a great experience.
And is it hard to grasp what this team has done for the popularity of women's college basketball?
It really is. And I think sometimes we even lose sight of that when we get into hard practices or something like that, but it's just so fun. And hearing everybody talk about it, wherever you go, if somebody knows that you're on the women's basketball team, they just say, what you guys do for this sport. I was never a women's basketball fan before, but now I watch it all the time, and you guys were the reason. So it's pretty incredible.
You went to the Final Four, and you were the recipient of the Elite 88 Award for the top GPA of anybody playing down there. What did that honor mean to you?
It was really special. I was not expecting it, and none of us really even knew it was happening or that it was a thing. It was just kind of a special thing down there, and I feel humbled, and I feel like I'm not the person that should have gotten it, but it was special, and just to have my teammates there too, they were so excited for me, so that was special.
I could tell by the reaction they posted on social media, you were kind of surprised, as was your teammates, but how cool was it to have that the back of have your teammates have your back like that, because they were as excited as you were?
Probably more excited. Just even me rewatching the video and seeing them all smiling and everything that happened before it, I think it's a testament to the culture that we have here and how we're all just so excited for each other and we want each other to succeed, and that was, testament to that.
Last year you were coming off a knee injury. You look healthy. You feel healthy?
Yes, I do. Knee has been good, and I'm feeling good. It's been good to be out on the court and practicing, and it's been a good summer and good preseason.
Obviously, you lost two players in the post that meant a lot to this team last year. How will your post position as a collective unit, how will this team maybe surprise some team this year down low in the post?
Yeah, we've been talking about how, Monica was Monica, and we don't necessarily need to fill her shoes exactly, but it is a big position to fill. But we all bring, me, AJ, and Addie, and Hannah played 5 last year. I mean, we all bring something different than Monica did. We bring the same energy, but we bring different skills. I mean, we talk about all the time that we don't have to be Monica, but we need to just be ourselves and bring the strengths that we each have. So I think people will be surprised with how it looks with the team.
How did facing Monica in practice make you all better last year?
I've been going against her I went against her for the last 3 years, and just thinking about how I came in and she was just, blocks every shot I take the first couple practices, but you just figure out how to score, and she was the most encouraging teammate, and she was all for us. She's taught us so much about just aggressiveness and then just the basketball skills in general, how to post upright and just all the little things. She was an incredible teacher and role model.
Obviously, the face of women's basketball is on this team with Caitlin. What's it like being her teammate?
She's great. She's her fiery self on the court, but she's also a goofball in the locker room, and so being able to be with her and know the true Caitlin is great.
And what is the true Caitlin?
Goofy, like I said. She's intense when it comes to basketball, but she is a wonderful friend off the court too, and she cares about each of her teammates.
And looking at yourself, what personal goals have you set for yourself this year?
Just to keep improving and seeing where this team can use me. I think getting better, just shots around the perimeter, strength back, even from the ACL, still getting that back, and just the whole feel that has kind of had to come back. So, I think just mostly seeing where my strengths can help the team out.
Obviously, you will have a lot of eyes on you this year. You've sold out every game, a lot of national TV broadcast, everything like that. How do you keep just the focus on where it needs to be right here on the floor without getting lost in all the well-deserved attention this program is getting?
Right. I think, kind of like I said, it's fun to look back on last year and see all the success and see what we have done for the sport. And all the amazing accomplishments, but also we flipped a switch to a new season, and we have to be focused on that. We have a game in front of fans in less than 2 weeks out in Kinnick, and you really just need to focus on that, and that, it's not going to come easy this season. There's a lot of eyes, but we got to do the work too.
You get to play in front of 50,000 people in a couple weeks. Any idea what that's going to be like?
Not a clue. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be so fun. We've played in front of sold-out Carver, but that's just so much more space and such a bigger environment. But I just think the whole Kinnick and crossover thing is such a testament to our coaches being able to be on top of things and always looking for what's best and moving forward and what's exciting.
Anyone who watched the Iowa bench last year saw the energy you brought at the bench. You've always been a positive person. You've always been an encouraging person going back to high school. What helps you bring that energy game in and game out and be so encouraging to your teammates?
I mean, it's just a love for my teammates. my faith in God is something that's very important to me, and from that comes a love for my teammates. And so I'm just praying that I'm able to show them the love of Jesus, and also just be able to encourage them, because like I said before, we're together, we're all so excited for each other's success. And so that is just my outward expression of the love for my teammates, and they have that same love for me. So
best of luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Rachel Udstuen, the superintendent of schools at the Spring Grove Community School District. A facility referendum coming up on November 7th there. A PEPO referendum coming up on November 7th in the Howard-Winneshiek School District. Kris Einck, the superintendent of schools there, joined us on the show, and always good to catch up with Sharon Goodman, a quality young person. Was a part of that great run for the Iowa women's basketball team last year, had the highest GPA of anyone competing at the Final Four last year, won the Elite 90 award from the NCAA, one of the biggest honors the NCAA gives out at their championships. And Sharon having a lot of fun and enjoying a great experience with the most recognized basketball team in America on the women's side in the Iowa women's basketball team. And don't forget, the majority of Iowa women's basketball games can be heard this year on Hawk Rock 100.5. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We know you can't always be near a radio or a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we feel we bring you entertaining, informative, engaging, enlightening guests, and we want you to be able to watch these interviews on your schedule. If you're out on YouTube looking at cat videos, looking at whatever you look at on YouTube, just go to 10-12 Our Town program. That's a great way to figure it out. We also put these shows up on our Facebook pages, the links to those shows on our Facebook pages on all of our LA communication radio stations. Thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. Thank you to our guest, and most importantly, we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for watching, or for logging on. Didn't get it in the right order, but I'm not perfect. To Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.